All right. In simple terms, I'm gonna be doing some basic, like, bigger picture kind of stuff with like a properly fleshed out background kind of thing. And then I'm thinking I might end up designing a couple like poster concepts for like Grisco Big Run hiring pamphlets. Because that sounds fun. Bit of a late stream today. Got caught up in a lot of real life garbage and also my cat begging for attention, so I can only say no to him so much. Let's get a bigger... I just want that opacity pressure. There we go. Or, no, not opacity pressure, pen pressure. Just make it bigger. Work. No, okay. Do I have another brush that would work better for this? What about this one? Ooh, that's interesting. I don't tend to usually play around with, like, brush options. So, fiddling with those is always a fun experience. This one, why not? Most of the idea with the thumbnails is figuring out, like, general composition, and then from there you sort of go into the actual details of it. That's a bit... that's gonna be annoying. Assign that to favorites, and then I believe the eraser... Well, at least the eraser I care about is in favorites, so... My brush also is, that's good. It's small. Yeah, the most difficult part of doing like thumbnails, I think, is actually keeping with the spirit of them and not being precious about anything. Because while with a lot of different artistic applications, not being super precious with your work is very helpful in general. Especially with a thumbnail, you can't hang on to it. You have to just, you know, let it go. Which is not my strong suit, I'll be honest. With some of these ideas, I had them rattling around in my brain ever since, like, the first big run stuff started happening, because I saw other people doing it too, where they were doing, like, really cool art based on, big run. Like, I saw this one, drawing a person did, where it was, like, the in-game lobby, with the sky all, like, pink because the big run had started, and that sort of, like, apocalyptic feel. I thought that looked really cool. This could be a bit more... Actually, we could have this go up, and then doing a yell. Light source probably from over here. So this is all in shadow, which gives the opportunity to have the eye be the one thing not in shadow here, which makes it pop. Makes it a bit more dramatic. It's always good to be able to, like, play around with the eyes and see what you can do to make them look a bit more, like, more of a focal point. Even when, like, realistically they wouldn't be super visible. But that's the fun part of art, is you can screw around with realism and what would actually be there for the sake of it looking cool. Now, I am not who I would call a painter. I'm not exactly familiar with painting in general, especially digital painting. I do watercolor, but that's about it. So this is gonna be fun because I kind of plan on trying to learn to paint with with these. Because I think that's the best way to go about learning a new skill, is doing it with something that you're interested in. Is, like, making sure you're actually invested in the thing that you're trying to make, so that you're not, you know, condemning yourself to a process that can take as long as painting, without actually giving a shit about the thing that you're making. At least for, like, the learning part. It's a little more, like, once you're familiar with a craft, it's a little easier to do things without actually, like, being super invested. Simply because you're already, like, familiar with it. But when you're actively trying to learn something, it makes a lot more sense to do it with something you enjoy. Let's fill that in. No, we'll leave that, and then... No, I had, like, more ideas for the, Ouroboros than I did, what's it called? Kohozuna, I think? Mainly because it's a big winding tube, with a face, and like it's a big old snake that tries to murder you, with a giant bomb in its mouth. So, you know, plenty of easy concepting there, but the Kohazuna is more of just a Quahog, but big. So it's like they have their own individualized attacks, and in game they're definitely unique from the things that they're based on. I mean, obviously this thing is mainly based on the steelhead because of its bomb mechanic, and the steelhead is a very different enemy. But in general, design-wise, a Kohozuna does pretty much just look like a giant Quahog, while the Ouroboros has a more unique design. And with the Megalodontia coming out, which I'm very excited about, because once these two were like shown off, where it's like, yeah, the Kohozuna, it's like, okay, that's based on a Quahog, and then this one, which was based on a steelhead, my first thought was, ooh, what if they make one that's based on a maw? Because maws is one of the enemies in Salmon Run, which basically all it really is most of the time is a little like buoy, you know, like an ocean buoy, and then a little like parameter around it, or like it's the little ocean buoy, and it moves around on the map. It follows the player, and when one of them stands still long enough, it'll stop, and there'll be a little like, you know, indicator circle around it. And after a few seconds or so, I think maybe like 1.5, 2, the game is pretty quick paced. The maws, you know, the enemy will jump out of the water, and it'll snap its mouth around whatever player is in this circle, and they are immediately splatted. You know, so they're dead. And I thought, damn, that'd make a really cool King Salmonid, wouldn't it? And I mean, they'd already done like a mega version of a maw in, I believe it was Splatoon 1, with one of the bosses in the story mode, where it was basically a giant mechanical maw, which I thought was really cool. I've never played Splatoon 1, but looking at it, it's so cool. That looks like a really fun boss fight. Which is able to be done because the Octarians, which are the enemy that you fight in story mode, have like traded technology lore-wise with the Salmonids, who you fight in Salmon Run. Or no, was it Splatoon 1? I don't know. It might have been like game development-wise, influence from that brought along the design concept of the maw in Splatoon 2, because I think Salmon Run came into existence in Splatoon 2 and not Splatoon 1. Yeah, no, it only exists in 2 and 3. But I believe lore-wise that was sort of the Octarians being influenced by the Salmonids, but, you know, take my words for a grain of salt. It's been a while since I've read the Sunken Scrolls. And so I'm seeing that one, and then, you know, just seeing these King Salmonids coming into existence, I was like, oh, that's really cool. I hope they do that. And then bam, they did that, and it's incredible, and I'm very excited to see how fighting it will go. So I'm real excited for that one, and there's actually a big run happening today. I'm pretty sure it's already started. Yeah, it starts at 4 p.m. for me, which we are certainly past that. And so I'm gonna be playing that with my group of friends, who we all play Salmon Run, or we all play Salmon Run. We all play Splatoon together. We're gonna be playing that tonight, like a couple hours when our fourth friend comes off work, because she unfortunately lives across the continent. 3 hours ahead of us. Fringe, not on the same time schedule. L ratio. Yeah, so we don't get to play with her as often because she usually has to go to bed. But she's sacrificing her sleep schedule to play Salmon Run with us, which is exciting. Okay, so this was gonna be the, what map is that? I don't know, it's the one with the fucking cylinder in the middle of it, and then, I don't know what map to put this, like, long, horizontal one on. Eh. This one's, like, more accurate to the way the game looks, but I feel like compositionally this looks a little more interesting. What about... I don't really want to direct this one at a player. I don't want to direct any of them at a player, because they're meant to be more of, like, a massive collective horror, that it's like, oh shit, what do we do? You know, this thing is much larger than us, physically, and just, like, in concept, it's a bigger threat than any of the other salmonids. So I feel like it should be less personal. So I don't really want to target it like one player just because of that. But I mean, at the same time, having like a focus is a good thing. It also just has like the derpiest face ever, so I feel like trying to get like that sort of close-up on it isn't the best idea for fear factor, because the more accurate I make it, the sillier it gets. He's got like a little frying pan in his mouth, right? And then there's all these like cool wires and stuff that you can do a lot with, and there's of course the bomb that shows up in his mouth. But his eyes really are just Kermit the Frog. It's giving a hand puppet. It's giving he's a silly little guy. It's giving small fry, honestly. Yeah, but I don't want to like artificially give him spookier eyes, because that feels, you know, disingenuous to the character design. What about... Okay, because I'm just throwing ideas at the wall right now, so what about the Kohozuna? Because this one... big round. Like, the point of the, of this guy, the Ouroboros, I think we should make this smaller for this. The point of Ouroboros is to be, like, very long and winding and snaky, and the Kohozuna, based off of the Kohawk, is very much more towards that sort of, like, massive, get out of its way, this thing is a wrecking ball, it will crush you, kind of vibe. You know, it's got relatively small fins, big tail and lower body, and one of its attacks is literally it jumps in the air and, like, slams down into the ground. Sort of, like, splashdown style. I don't actually remember what it looks like completely, to be honest. And I have not been able to wrap my head around how to draw fish mouths, ever. Something about him just looks weird, but... yeah. There's this little guy, he's vicious. Yeah, but this one's more about the just, like, straight aggression. Like, the way it functions in-game is the player that is currently dealing the most damage to it, it aggroes onto and follows them around until another player starts doing more DPS to it. And so it'll target that one player, which can be really useful for, like, kiting it. because you can get your like most DPS-y weapon to be constantly shooting at it and running around, leading it in like a circle, and then you have all your three other players going and getting eggs from boss salmonids to shoot at the Kohozuna, or just like playing Pong with one of your teammates and just setting it back and forth. It's laughably easy to to screw with this thing. It's not the smartest, I'll be honest. And then with the Ouroboros, it doesn't target any player specifically. It kind of just floats in a circle around the map. Like it'll just constantly go in the same path, circling over the center-ish of the map, wherever your egg basket would be. And the goal of the players is to just try and get as many eggs as possible to shoot them into the bomb in its mouth, because it works similarly to a steelhead, where this bomb is targetable. You want to hit this thing, because that is the only way to damage a steelhead. And while you can damage this boss normally by just hitting its body, the best course of action is to hit the bomb, because not only will you be dealing much more damage as it's a weak point, but if you deal enough damage, it will break the bomb, so it doesn't actually get to throw it and explode anything, so you save yourselves the hassle. And generally, you'll want to throw eggs at it, but if you do have a really good DPS weapon on your side, which, you know, is a gamble because Salmon Run, the weapons are randomized. But if you have a really good weapon for, like, DPS on your side, you might have that person target just constantly shooting at the bomb to try and get rid of it as quickly as possible and damage the Ouroboros as much as you can. Anyways, we could work with, like, perspective to make the player seem smaller than they really... Well, actually, because of camera angles, the Kohozuna doesn't feel as big as it actually is, I think. But genuine sizing in-game of your characters relative to it, the thing is massive. So, honestly, this might be regularly accurate sizing, to be real. Just ponytail or whatever. I don't know, that feels kind of bland. What's a more interesting way I could go about this one? Because I'm not sure if I want, like, a super tall or super wide canvas. I feel like more leaning towards a square is a better idea for the Kohozuna, because there's less I can do with, like, altering its shape relative to the Ouroboros. Like, this is a wet spaghetti noodle right here. I can make it do fucking loop-de-loops if I so please. But most of this is compacted into the lower area, like, most of the Kohozuna's weight and mass is in the lower body. So, like, I can move its head around, but I can't do much with adjustment, as it's generally a circle. I can alter the, like, angle it's at, but, like, I can't be as, like, dramatic with it as I can with the Ouroboros, where I can make this thing do loop-de-loops and spirals and become a piece of modern art. So canvas-wise, I feel like closer to a square might suit it better. And honestly, I might put it in the center. I feel like that's a good... is to just have it, like, centered on the Kohozuna. So it's like, oh shit, there's this guy. He's here and he is ready to party. And by party, I mean bash your skull in. And I would give him, like, facing forward. But I'm not sure if that's a good idea, to be honest. Because I feel like the Samanids look really fucking derpy when they face directly forward. Like, I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I feel like anytime I've seen a Samonid looking directly at the camera, it's been the funniest shit on planet Earth. They don't exactly look super threatening. Especially with the way their eyes attach to their heads. Fucking googly eye looking. Ooh, better idea. He's looking to the side at the camera. So he's like facing away and looking back at the camera. And this, folks, is why we concept and we don't go with our first idea, because I could do this, and this is relatively fine, but for getting something just like a little more interesting, it's always good to keep going, getting more and more ideas out. Just throw random shit at the wall and eventually something will stick. And from that we can go, okay, well, if he's gonna be centered, maybe we make the canvas a little taller, you know, not like this tall and thin, but a little bit taller. And then we have some foreground elements covering him up. But in a way that maybe makes him a little bigger than he might be canonically in the game. But it's for the drama of it, makes it an interesting image. So, screw the rules. And then... Again, I want to use map elements as, like, backgrounds, but I don't remember what all the maps look like. It's been a while since I've played Splatoon properly, which is sad, because I really like the game. Especially Salmon Run. It's my favorite mode. I like the elements of having to, like, think on the spot and work quickly to adapt to changing conditions, since every single wave, which the names for things are shifts and waves. So basically a shift is a set of 3 waves where there's like a pause in between to recuperate with your team. And during every wave you have an objective, and once you complete the objective, the wave ends. Unless you fail, which happens if you either run out of time or all of your team dies. What similar maps exist? We'll just put random shit in the foreground, to get the vibes going. Yeah, but generally, you know, there's 3 waves to a shift. But King Salmonids are a sort of like extra wave, like a fourth wave thing that happens sometimes. So you know, you'll be doing your regular everyday work, and then it's like, oh, emergency! There's a biggin. Better go take care of him. And so you get that extra wave. Where was I going with that? I have no idea. I have been laughably tired all week. With the holidays happening, stuff's been getting a little more hectic, so I gotta figure out how it works. Also, okay. So the neighborhood I live in, right? Right, you know, most people here, pretty dang cool. We have a affinity for Halloween decorations. We like Halloween here at my place. Our house is technically decorated for Halloween 24/7, 365, and then we amp it up more during the Halloween season just because we like the aesthetic of Halloween. So, and like spooky shit in general, like be it Halloween or not, just like spooky stuff. That's our sort of vibe. So that's generally what is happening here. That's generally what our house looks like year round. And so for Halloween, we go kind of all out. We have like a lot of cool stuff going on. And we have a very large skeleton in our front yard, which our plan was that we were going to keep him for Christmas as well. You know, keep him up for like the winter holidays. And we were gonna give him like a Santa hat because that was the easiest clothing concept that felt Christmassy that we could provide. We don't celebrate Christmas, but I mean, giving a skeleton a Christmas hat is pretty funny. And like he's holding an ornament. Like we were gonna have him hold an ornament that he was like putting up on a large tree that we have in our yard. And then our neighbors, dastardly fuckers, who are garbage people, called like the neighborhood hotline or whatever, something like that. I don't know. They like complained to our property manager and we're like, this isn't a Christmas decoration, they need to take it down. And then our property manager was like, shucks, you gotta take it down. It's like, the fuck? So anyways, we're starting a war in the neighborhood now, so that's fun. Can't wait to fucking rat on them every time their dog is off leash now. Which they do so frequently. I can't with these people. I won't. Okay, so the temptation to like go egg their house or something is very strong, but I won't because that's illegal, and they will also immediately know it was one of us because that's so blatantly retaliation. But I want to. Deep down in my heart, I want to egg their house. But I mean, other than that, my start to the holiday season has been relatively uneventful in a good way. I'm just drawing Godzilla but a fish right now. Oh dear. This isn't going to plan. We might want to move on to the Megalodontia. So excited for that. I want to go play, but I mean, I'm gonna have to wait several hours till our friend gets off work anyways, so... I do appreciate the changes that Nintendo made to Big Run, though, because originally, where you would place in, like, trophy-wise in Big Run metrics was dependent on, the entire player base. So, like, the entire player base would lead to the deciding of the calculations of, like, how many eggs you had to, like, how many of the points you had to get the different trophy types, which is green participation trophy. Bronze is the lower 50%. They're like, bronze is the 50%, silver is the 20%, and then gold is like the 5%, I think. And so the players would be the ones decide, like, ending up influencing what those number cutoffs were. And they changed that so that it's just a number that they have decided. So it's not like a gamble. If you made the bracket, you'll know immediately because you know how many points you've gotten, like the most amount of points you've gotten in the Big Run event. So you'll know what trophy you're getting before the event ends. And you can actually aim for specific trophies now if you want, like, specific colors. Because, I mean, I'm sure most people are trying to get as high as possible, but I know for some trophies, I would personally prefer, like, the bronze color, just because I think it would look cooler. I am gonna aim for gold this time, just because it's a salmonid egg, which is basically an egg with a little, like, cartoony fish skeleton in it. And in-game, these eggs are golden, so I want the gold trophy. just because it's more game accurate. But like that will actually allow players to thread that needle if they so want to, you know, like if they want to, which I think is fun. And it's also just a little more fair to players who don't aggressively play Salmon Run, you know, aren't like as into it as some people are, aren't like don't know how to overfish, that kind of thing. Which overfishing is basically tryharding the hell out of Salmon Run. And I don't mean that as an insult. I'm currently trying to learn how to overfish. It is like a team effort thing though, and unfortunately the people I play Splatoon with don't care about Salmon Run nearly as much as I do. Their favorite modes are the ranked modes. And then I have another friend who technically has Splatoon, but I mean, he never even made it into ranked mode, and he only really likes Turf War according to him, despite never having tried ranked mode before. But like, he doesn't really play, so and he doesn't like Salmon Run actively, so I'm screwed in that department. I'm planning on eventually probably joining like a Splatoon Discord, so that I can, you know, find some people who are interested in perhaps creating an overfishing team. I think that'd be fun. And I mean, especially with the coming year, I will have technically more free time on my hands. I'll use most of it for streaming, but like I'll be a little more in control of my own schedule. So instead of working around my schedule, I make my schedule, so I'll actually be able to maybe commit to something like a Salmon Run overfishing team. Or just like generally doing other shit. Going places, doing things, enjoying life. Now, the one issue with the Megalodontia in me trying to concept art for it right now is that I have not seen how this thing works in-game. I've seen the Ouroboros in-game, I've seen the Kohozun in-game, but currently all I have is the, Why did I leave the background pure white again? I need to stop doing that. Maybe a little lighter. That works. Like with the other ones, I've seen how the sort of how they work in game and like generally what they look like overall, but with the Megalodontia, I only have the sort of like vague, shaky camera image teaser preview of it, which I should actually probably pull that up. That's not how you spell that. Megalodontia. That's a shark. Splatoon. There we go. Megalodontia Splatoon. Yeah, it's sort of like a blurry, fuzzy camera image version of it, which, let me grab this real quick. Save images, references. Which I will say, it does seem to look rather similar to the Kohozuna. I'm hoping it doesn't look that close. Insert as new layer. That is a tiny image. Or maybe my canvas is just too big. But if we shift and pull this... Yeah, so this is what the Megalodontia looks like, which is super cool, and I'm very excited to play around with that in game. But it does look a little bit similar to the here we go. It does look a little similar to may have made this a little too big. No. We don't want to mess with the aspect ratio. Okay, shove that in the corner. Cool. Did I just fuck up my... A little bit. It's fine. Everything is a-okay, besties. Regardless, I think this looks really cool. But I'm not really sure how it functions in the game, because I mean, this is literally an image of it in the water. Like, I don't think it's even on a map or anything, and it's artistic, it looks cool, but I don't know how it'll function in the game, and so I don't have as much, like, reference image to work off of. For the artwork, as I do these two. I'm having a hard time talking. Now, my real question, though, is if it's gonna function similarly to the boss fight in Splatoon 1. Hello! Welcome in. But the real question is if it'll function similarly to the boss fight in Splatoon 1. I imagine not, because Salmon Run wouldn't function as well. But in Splatoon 1, it was this big, like, mech sort of thing. And it would open its mouth, or, like, it'd catch you in the middle of its mouth as it, like, hung out there, and there were big teeth that you had to destroy to get out quickly before it would, like, snap its jaws shut and eat you. But I imagine it won't do that in Salmon Run, and it'll probably act a lot more similarly to the Moz enemy, where it's just a runaway and you don't have to break something to run away. But I don't know. We'll have to see when I actually end up playing it later today. Regardless, you got me mid-sentence. How's your day been? I might do something where I less show off the actual Megalodontia and more... But at the same time, I don't know if it'll do that in-game. Work was king? Aw, that sucks. Well, at least you're off of it now, I assume. So freedom from work is always nice, even if it takes a little while. And I mean, hey, if you're back home now, there's 2 cats to pet. Oh, work was long. Same difference. That is in fact even worse though, because work just taking 7 years to end is always garbage, and the more you want it to go quickly, the longer it takes. I love how time is processed by the brain. For scaling purposes, because this is a king salmonid, they are very big. So I think this would be more of a character is tiny compared to the life buoy thing. Rather than in-game where you're not like terribly small compared to it. I've made this too big. I don't know though. Like honestly, I don't have a lot to work with this, so I might have to go digging for like see if anyone has posted any like videos of them playing it. Although honestly, I'll probably do more with the Megalodontia specifically after I've played the game, so I know what I'm doing. I'll likely focus on these two more until I've seen it in-game. We're probably gonna see this one getting closer to finalization first, just because, well, I have a better concept of it. How was my day? My day was pretty good, relatively relaxing. I slept a lot today. Didn't have anywhere to be. I did not pay attention to time, though, so I started stream like half an hour late. But my cat demanded attention, and some other stuff, and I mean, who am I to say no to such a little guy? Yeah, but it was relatively good. It's me every day. Yeah. I think if I'm gonna go in this direction, where it's just the circling, I'll probably have it be like mid-bomb creation instead of just screaming at sky. So we'd likely have this sort of showing up. Which I still think that's a very fun mechanic, the Ouroboros bomb. I really need to play Salmon Run more. I miss the silly little guys. I miss eradicating an entire sentient species for their eggs, because they're a good power source. This game is horrific when you pay attention to any of the lore. In just, oh, so many ways. It's great. We love cheery, kid-friendly post-apocalyptic games. Yeah, I'll probably go more with this, though, because while I did say earlier, it's always good to do a lot of concepts, because the more things you throw at the more things you throw at the wall, the more likely you are to find something that sticks really well. And your first idea is often not your best idea. Sometimes the first idea is pretty dang good. So, so as much as getting the other ones out are a good idea, it can also lead to just solidifying more that, hey, this first idea I had, actually pretty banger. So you don't have to worry as much about, oh, well, what if I ended up having a cooler idea? Because it's like, I didn't. This one was pretty dang cool. And then, you know, other times you start off with an okay idea and then get further and further into more interesting stuff. I love making a bajillion tiny boxes out of canvas. As much as, like, thumbnailing is the least stressful part of art, in the sense of, like, you don't have to make it look good necessarily, it's more about, like, the framing of the image. Like, you can just have it be little fucking blobs as long as it gets the point across. That's all that's really relevant. But at the same time, it's like, this is deciding most of the composition of the image. So it's a little daunting. Oh, I could get up close and personal. We could get him real close to the camera, but I feel like that again defeats the purpose of what I'm trying to do here, because mainly the point of this is like it's meant to be sort of on the job imagery kind of thing of like, yep, you are here and there is a horrid creature also here that wants you specifically very dead. So it's that sort of like greater than you kind of daunting feeling that I'm going for, rather than silly little guy up close and personal. This is the Mega Man image. I have drawn Mega Man. Mega Man? Mega Mind. Those are two very different characters. I don't think that's how that works. Anyways, I've drawn Megamind, apparently. No bitches? Today has been an interesting day. Regardless, on top of these cool, funny, wacky images where I'm assuredly biting off more than I can chew, I also want to make some poster designs for, you know, like a sort of Grisco is hiring vibe, which I'm certain other people have already done. Actually, I know other people have already done. I don't remember what they look like specifically, but I've seen those before. But I think designing a poster is cool. And I feel like they'd have a different one every big run, because it's like it's a regular event, but it's not like the biggest, or it's not like the most common thing ever. And then of course, you know, just your classic we're hiring, come join Grisco poster, because we love corrupt corporate entities. Regardless, this is the kind of thing that I would probably need a lot more references for, because, you know, going for that sort of, like, kind of cutesy corporate vibe, like, corporate artistic vibe, where it's, like, a little, I think, 70s or 80s feeling in the graphical design. You could make him a worm on a string. Have you seen this man? Does this one have hair? I don't remember. Hold on. Work hiring poster. Crisco. I want to see what some other people have done with it. And of course there's like actual in-game posters too that exist. Just to like see what other people are doing and take a crack at it from that vibe. Because that's the fun part about art, is that you know, you can look at the things that other people are doing and take inspo from that in a funky and fun way. Yes, this is what I'm looking for. Save and... Okay, so let's drag some of these in. Yeah, but this kind of image is sort of the vibe that I'm going for, that very, like, corporate-y, cheery aesthetic kind of feel. I find this one in particularly relatively entertaining. We are hiring! Wait, why is there a watermark over part of the... Uh-oh. There's just like half of a watermark over the 3D model. That's kind of suspicious. I don't know. Okay, we erase this. This is why references are important, because while I had the vibe in my head, I would not have been able to produce the vibe without looking at like a couple references. Like at least a few. To be able to get the point across a little bit better. So we'll probably have that sort of like infographic writing around it, and then a big word, like big word somewhere. It's like, we're hiring. Except, you know, I'll probably put it in Splatoon text because Splatoon. Although I think I might go more towards this one, in the sense of it has the sort of like, we're hiring text here. Or put it at the top. And then like infographics about the information. I don't know if Grisco would have online applications. Give them a QR code, but I feel like Grisco is kind of garbage and old schoolish feeling, so I don't think they would actually have that. And then of course here is the fine print part of the poster, where it's absolutely minuscule, and there's so much of it, because Grisco is very not cool. Salmon Run favorite mode. Grisco terrible company. It's just the definition of corrupt company, which I find very entertaining. Like to an extreme extent if you go into the Splatoon 3 story mode, because this guy right here, this little bear looking dude, that's Mr. Grace. He's so evil. Oh, it's wonderful though. Quite a dramatic twist when players find out, oh, this game mode I've been playing since Splatoon 2, where it's like, you know, I've been helping out the Gridsco Industries since Splatoon 2. Turns out I was helping out this evil guy concoct his evil plan. What? I feel like I want a more 2D graphic look, so I don't think we have any like 3D elements. I think it stays not crossing over itself. Yeah, and then we have the eye, and goes into the tail. You know, something relatively basic. Oh, right, this thing has like the lightning bolt eyebrows. Now I remember. He's a silly little guy. I think I don't want the head that far down though. Actually, better idea. The game Snake. Where you can do that sort of like winding thing around yourself. What if that? Yeah, getting a sort of more like blocky feel to the I feel like I've seen that sort of art style in Splatoon before. Which it shouldn't be relatively too difficult to like semi-recreate for a Grizzco poster. Yeah, just do something like this, and then I made that too thick. Have the head at the top. Just try and make it as blocky as possible. And it like doesn't have a lot of detail, since it's more just like for graphical purposes, getting the shapes in there, but not, you know, like it's not gonna have every individual scale drawn out or anything. I think I would want it to get smaller as it goes down too. So we pulled this in from that edge. I didn't cut that off enough. And then we do the same on this side, so that it just like gets smaller as you go. And same with the tail. I think I've made this too thick in general, though, to be honest. Yeah, something more like that. And then we can actually just select and squish these up a bit. Or like that, to account for the sizing differences. And we do the same with this entire thing. Move it all up. And we move this up. And we don't bother with that because we have an eraser, and it seems this wants to be a little difficult. What? I didn't deselect it properly. Okay. You gotta extend these to account for the sizing change. And bammo shablamo. That's a little guy drawn. Now that, I think, is more aesthetically the kind of vibe that I'm going for. Like, just aggressively into that sort of, like, corporate art, department. Which, while this style of art isn't, you know, specifically corporate art, I feel like on a poster with a bunch of words around it, it really, sells the vibe properly. And then this would be, like, mostly solid colors, probably. With a couple, you know, blocks of adjustment for, you know, like this would likely be green because that's where the little, like, clothing thing it wears is. This would be a different green because I'm pretty sure the Ouroboros is green colored. You know, we'd have a pop of yellow for the eyes, a more muted yellow for the horn, or maybe the same yellow. Because I'd probably keep it kind of neon, because it's meant to look sort of, like, cheery and fun, and, oh yeah, we are hiring, come join us! Maybe, like, a little Briscoe Industries logo in the corner. I don't remember what the Grisco logo is, I think it's the bear. If Gritsko even has a logo, actually. Oh, wait, no, they do have a logo. It's the fish thing. Right, yeah, it's like a... It's like that, kind of. That's... Sure, that... Yeah, alright, we'll call that a logo, why not? I'd probably make this bigger, actually, to try and fill more space in the image. Not that big, though. We still want to have, like, margins. Uh-oh. Keep that a little closer, because I don't want to grab anything from outside of it. And shift that around. Yeah, something like that. And there'd probably be, like, more words along here. Or maybe it'd just be, you know, one big get rid of it kind of thing. Well, I feel like that works with this artistic style, but not necessarily this more like snake adjacent one. I think we like frame things around it to make it look right. And the poster margins need to be accounted for as well, for the sake of, you know, the possibility of off-prints. That's a thing with a lot of like mass-produced, like when you're mass-producing something like a book or a business card, you leave room in the margins for the possibility of things being misprinted, like a little too high or a little too far to the right, or slightly curved, or like turned slightly. You have those margins to make sure all of your information is still on the actual page or paper, even if it's, you know, like done somewhat improperly. It's also, I believe it's also a thing you'll see in like comic pages too, where there will be margins left. Generally just for anything that's being like copied and remade like over and over, you're gonna want to have those margins just to allow for error. I assume that's where the phrase margin for error came from, because it's, you know, a margin for the sake of error. And then if we copy and paste this, then we can erase what's inside and change the logo design, and maybe shift around this stuff a bit too. Maybe put some of the information on the sides instead of the instead of just directly on. My music did not stop. I know that I fixed the issue of my music potentially stopping, but I always still get worried about it. If there's like too long of a delay. Actually, I don't know. Maybe we just push this up a little higher, because I want to have like a room for like an actual photo in it. So there's like some text, and then it's got a picture of the Kohozuna. Let's erase this. A picture of the Kohozuna. I should probably also, well, no, Splatoon text isn't top down. I believe it's left right. But like to have like an actual photo of a Kohozuna, I'll probably base it off of the like original reveal photo. Where it's that sort of like you can kind of see it, and it's pretty obvious what it is, but it's, you know, it's not the best quality image. It's sort of like a quick and shaky, very fuzzy look, just to show off, hey, this is a Kohozuna. And then here we have our fine print. We put our Grizzco logo in there. Maybe we put it at the top this time. And then the Kohozuna itself, which, what does it look like again? Right. I'm not sure if I'd keep this one as angular. Could make it a square. Yeah, probably not. But I still want to try and keep it as simplistic as possible. So super simple shapes. For the sake of trying to keep it like as readable as possible from afar, while still looking interesting, because, you know, poster, you want it to be eye-catching, but you want it to like be able to portray its image from a relatively decent distance. I think this one does a very good job of that, because at its core it's very simplistic and you can't really see a lot of it. It doesn't make complete sense when you like scale it up, I don't believe. Like you can tell what it is, but the shapes used in themselves are a little confusing the closer you get, but in scaling it down, your brain like sort of fills in the gaps with it of what it's supposed to be. So it's important to use like larger shapes and think about the negative space and the silhouetting when you're making something like the logo or a poster. I had to learn all of this because I was asked to make a logo for a family member, because I was the artist of the family. And I mean, it was okay, but I've learned a lot since then. I actually remade it for them recently, and I'm much more proud of it. But it definitely forced me to take a crash course on composition real quick. Along with another family member asking me to not necessarily design a tattoo for them, but put their idea onto paper so it could be... I put this on the wrong layer. God damn it. But put their design on paper so that they could describe it to their tattoo artist, so that the tattoo artist could then like actually draw it out and make it. So again, it had to be readable and recognizable and that kind of thing. I believe that, nope, that is, no, it should be right click. Okay, merge with layer below. There we go. Quick and easy fix to putting things on the wrong layer. I am overcomplicating this a bit, I believe. Again, I have most of my ideas for the Ouroboros and not nearly as many for the other two. Megalodontia because I haven't seen much of it, and Horizuna because I feel like it's very simplistic. It makes sense that it was, because it was the first one. So they wanted to get the idea out there with something simple and easy to understand for players, because it's big Quahog. But design-wise, it's not the most interesting thing out there. Especially not the most interesting thing in Splatoon. Because, I mean, it's just a Quahog, but big. Yeah, not bad design. It does what it's meant to, but it doesn't give me as much to work with in simplifying. Well, I mean, I guess it should actually be the easiest because it's already relatively simplistic, so picking out those details should be easy, but should be does not always mean is. Ooh, I could actually just genuinely silhouette it, where it's just the external lines and you can't see any of the internal bits. Except for probably the eye. Yeah, we would likely keep the eye visible, for the sake of looking good. But other than that, maybe doing something along these lines. Yeah. Again, working with that sort of like trying to work with the negative space that we have to make an image sort of pop. And of course we can have it be like a sort of reverse filling in situation, where instead of just filling in the parts that would have color and then leaving like the base Kozuna the color of the poster, we could do the opposite, have the base Kozuna be filled in and then erase around that, and you know, have like the clothing bit be the part that isn't colored. Something like that could work. I feel like that'd be relatively interesting. I'd need to fiddle with this this here first, though. I think that might actually fix it. And then we add the eye again. I think I'd probably have the eye be lower and just inside of the head, for the sake of visibility, even if it's not entirely accurate to what the Kohotsuna looks like. Yeah, something like that could work. We resize it a bit. Although I feel like this looks more interesting as like a smaller image. I don't know. I don't know. Now the real question is how we go about this with the Megalodontia. Because that one is going to be interesting, I would say. Control V, and then we erase the insides. Since it has that sort of chomping aesthetic, the question there would be, do I go with the cinematic version, or do I just draw the entire thing? Because I feel like that would fit better with the rest of the posters, is if I just draw the Megalodontia and not it attacking. But I would need to be able to see its entire character model to do that properly, because I'd have to make some rather large assumptions if I did that now. Although I do think it'd be interesting to, or I might have the sort of text up on the top, since you know it's a threat from below kind of thing going on. The skirts look is getting more and more fucked up as I go. We're hiring. And then this thing. Oh, actually, am I even gonna be able to see its entire character model? That's a good question, because the mom mechanic is it is underground and then it jumps up and sort of noms at you, but it doesn't come completely up out of the ground. I don't know. I mean, I can always just look it up online, because I'm sure someone will pull the game files for the for its model, which might not even have the rest of it modeled, to be honest. It would make sense that they didn't if it's stuck underground the whole time. I don't know. I am noticing, though, that while it does have similar-ish body shaping to the Kozuna at first glance, it's more evenly balanced between its body and head, since its mouth is fucking massive. So it might be, yeah, and it's more shaped like a mountain, or like an upside down cake cone. Teeth, little hair bit, and then the eye. No. I don't know. I want to draw it with its mouth open, but I don't know how to stylize that, because I can barely draw it normally. Yeah, I still haven't gotten around to studying how creatures with jaw long snouts open their mouths. But I've been meaning to, because it's something that I personally struggle with artistically, and I feel like that's a good thing to know how to draw. is just like being able to draw a creature opening its mouth is slightly helpful for a creature design. So we take that, and then simplifying, we have less lines and more of being able to just do it all in one go. So we would have more of a straight line here, and then perhaps not that far. Hard to look like a dolphin. We want to try and pull back as much as possible and then add more lines until it looks right. Start with little and then work towards more, because if you start with more and keep going less and less, it's not as easy to see, is this too much, is this too little, as it is of if you start from too little, because it's like, yeah, this isn't nearly enough, until eventually you get to a level of detail where it's like, oh yeah, that works. I feel like this one could certainly benefit from the proper silhouetting effect, which it would probably be less like a black and white thing and more the color of the creature, but without lines, so that we can keep it looking as 2D and flat as possible. Because sometimes you want your art to be flat looking, just for like stylistic choices and reasons, and depending on what you're doing with it, having it be flatter can be useful. That's a color. Also, it's red. Yeah, the Salmon Run color palette really is something, though, to be honest. I don't know how they pulled it off without it looking Christmassy in the slightest. It's just like how aggressively dark the reds are, I think, is what really sells it. That's an eraser. You can color fill erasing? Oh, that's weird. I did not know that was an option. And I think the reds tend to not be like a straight red, but lean closer to either like pinks or like oranges, which allows them to intermix with that sort of like algae green a little easier without looking like Christmas. Yeah, this isn't working though. Back to the drawing board. Literally. A board that you draw on. Alright, I need to give it its little hair bit too. Yeah, I feel like these other two are getting more and more detailed, and like with the shape language relative to this one, which is probably why they're straying away from what I want to do with it. But I'm not entirely sure how to make them more what I'm looking for. I mean, again, I can go with that more like square-ish feel. By being a bit more angular, because this does have a decent amount of curve to it. So if we get rid of that curve and make it entirely angles, that might work a little bit better. And also try to have like as few lines as possible again, which, while easier for portraying shapes when using curved lines, doesn't have to necessarily. So we can take this and shrink it because I made it too big. Yeah, it looks a little better. And adjust the angle of these lines. I think I made it too small. That's Control-Shift-C. Wrong button. If we shorten it a bit, that'll help. Yeah, okay. And bring that down slightly. There we go. That's a little better, yeah. And that gives us the opportunity to make things a little more angular and less... what's the word? A little more abstract, yeah. That's the kind of style that I'm trying to go for, is the sort of like abstract representation of an image. Because I mean, if I were trying to properly draw codes in, I'd do something more like this, but for like a closer to a logo design, I'd want something a little less like accuracy based and more like just catching the feeling of it. And actually, shape-wise, I feel like trying to make this look more like a hen than a fish is what's happening here, but it's kind of working. It is kind of hen-shaped. You know, a little bit chicken-shaped. But I can add one extra bit of detail, which is more for like up-close viewing purposes, which is just cutting this off slightly so that it's flatter looking. And then I'd likely have the cutoff points for the details be here and here, and then this one would be in the middle to sort of cut through the image. Since it's like the strap that holds it on, if we keep that. I might not, though. I might leave it like this. Yeah, because I'm not like drawing the strap for this one, because that's it complicates it a little too much. But that's just because this one is very visually complicated in the sense of the constant winding around. But this one is a lot more simplistic. It's more open space and less lines relative. So it gives more of an opportunity for adding like details without it making the image feel as crowded as it would if you added more details to, say, something like this. This one, though, I'm not really sure what to do with. Yeah, just because I don't have as much to, like, work off of. I could have it looking down, I suppose, or, like, to the side. But I'm not sure what it looks like with its mouth closed. You little guy. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to have its mouth closed. It could be a thing where it's just its mouth open, but in another direction. For the sake of being more readable to the audience. And by the audience, I mean squids looking at this poster. Man, I don't know. I'm a little bit stumped. A little kerfuddled, perhaps. Okay, well, let's go back to here. Get rid of these. So this one, if we yoink that, we copy, we paste, we realize that there was no reason for making this, where's remove layer? Alright, now zoom out. This is not going to fit properly in the canvas because it's not shaped for that, but that is fine. It doesn't need to. As long as it's generally being put in the right place, that's all that's really relevant. And we can always just put like a large thing of black behind it. Let's go back to all. We go up and we make this really big and just kind of fill this in to cover space and realize that I have a line tool for a reason and decide to use the line tool. This wonderful thing that other artists have created for the sake of artistic sanity. So we bring down the opacity quite, well, not that much actually, maybe like 50%. That's not 50%. Okay, we bring the opacity down to 50%. I could input the number, that would be easier. Oh well. And yeah, maybe, I don't know what brush I want to use for this, to be honest. Because now we're in territory that I'm less familiar with. We don't have to be, though. What am I doing? Draw out the general idea. So, from what I remember of this map, I believe there is 3 winding layers to this platform. And then there's the bit on top. And it curls around up this side to sort of connect to the top, and then there's like a pipe thing here. Now, there is like a sort of grate here, which I could solidly have the Ouroboros coming out of. Or we could have it come from behind, but I feel like that's a bit ambiguous. I think this might look nice. And we have it with its mouth like wide open. Oh god, I have to actually figure out how this would work. So it's a hinge joint, it would be here, so then it rotates this way. Right, and I'm giving this a little more structure than it actually has, because I believe in-game its mouth sort of like curls outward in a really odd looking way, honestly. But I mean, it does its job, so visually it's very effective, I'll say. And there's the frying pan and all the like tubes and pipes. And then it curls back this way, and bammo shablamo, we've got a worm. Perhaps even a wiggly boy. Anatomy of fish. Yeah, I honestly, at this point, I feel the most difficult part would be figuring out how to actually get this to look nice, like get the actual like opening of the mouth part to look nice, because it is the focal point, so it's really important. From there, I feel the painting would be easier, despite it being something I have never done before ever. Just for the simple reason of, boy, does the Ouroboros look goofy. like all of the sort of king salmonids look a little bit silly. Like if you actually think about it, you don't focus on it too much in game because, you know, you're busy trying to kill them before they kill you. But generally in concept they look a little funny. Especially the Ouroboros though, because it has such a silly face. And then it's just got a frying pan in its mouth. Like it's you know, it's making this big scary bomb on top of a genuine like cast iron frying pan. You know, like this is the fucking stainless steel pan that I have in my kitchen cabinets. You know, sitting in the stove when you're not using it because you have nowhere else to store your cast irons. And then on top of that, it's got little lightning bolt eyebrows and the silliest, least focused eyes you've ever seen. Like, in the game, it's spooky. When you look at it, though, it's certainly not spooky. The teeth, though, those things are absolutely vile. That's real effective design right there, because they're like all gnarly and pointing in all the wrong directions and just ugh. And like while in concept it's pretty funny, they rendered it really well in my opinion. Like it looks kind of gross in all the right places to be relatively effective in like ugh, and spookiness kind of factors. So it'd be sort of shaded here-ish. Definitely along most of this sort of back area. More so because of the head, like, covering it up. And then, of course, I'd want to put most of the face in shadow. There'd be a little bit of, like, rim lighting on this lip here. But other than that, most of its face would be near entirely in shadow because of the rest of its face covering it up. And then, of course, these tubes. And I would probably have a little bit more of this in light, I suppose. But, like, generally a lot of shadow here because we're trying to get that sort of spooky, horrific effect. So you want a lot of this to be, like, not easily visible. And it also means that there's less details to have to, like, manually draw in yourself because most of it is in a level of shadow that wouldn't be easily seen through, by the viewer. And it gives you the chance to make those eyes pop. Because if you don't put the eyes in shadow at all, while everything around it is in dark shadow, it leads to them being very bright. Even go as far as to make them white specifically. Just to really get that sort of, like, harsh, lighting effect. Yeah, like that. And while I don't intend to add a pupil, I can do this sort of, like, fade out on the eyeball itself, A, to make it look three-dimensional, and B, to make it look like it's staring directly at you. So it makes it look spookier because there's just this one spot that's actually bright and eye-catching, and it's pointed at nothing other than the camera. Which I need something a little... as much as I don't like the airbrush tool, sometimes it can be useful. Because I would want this to be more, like, yellow than anything else. I feel like highlighter is more efficient for... No, it's not. That does not do what I want it to. How about this? There we go. Yeah, it's not very easy to see right now, but that's, like, the general point, is just bringing the eye of the viewer to where you want them to look. That's a lot of what composition is about. It's just trying to sort of, like, nudge someone in the right direction with where they should be looking on the image. Because you don't want to, like, have someone be distracted by, you know, some pointless thing off in the corner and then never actually look at the interesting parts. But of course, at the same time, that depends on the piece, because some art pieces, the point of it is that it's full of a bunch of little things all over it. And so you want people to, like, look at all the little things and, you know, scan their eyes over the entire image. And of course, there's often still a focal point. Even if it's a minor focal point, it's usually still there, at least. But with those kinds of pieces, it's more about the entire image itself than any one specific part. But composition does still play a role in making the image, like, understandable at a glance, even if people aren't gonna, you know, dive in and fish out all the little details. Let's look at great over here too, I think. This is just a memory quiz on what exists in Splatoon 3 maps. And then over yonder is the Well, the egg basket wouldn't be visible, actually, from here. Even if it was... Or, like, I think you might be able to see it, but it wouldn't be up in this moment because this is an extra wave, which don't have egg baskets. Also, I probably would want to rotate the head, because see, this is why we do like thumbnailing and underpaintings and rough sketches and that kind of thing, because there's a solid chance you'll end up wanting to like move a large structure like this, which I want to, whoops, let's bring this down here. I want to like rotate this so that it's more straight up. Because currently it's at an angle, and I feel like visually having it look straight up is a bit more dramatic, mayhaps. Again, with the selecting off to the side. I wish there was an easy way to deselect with like the selection tools. Oh well. I'm certain there is. There is most assuredly a way to do that. I just haven't bothered looking it up. Okay. And then behind that, we would have like a large swath of sort of gray darkness. Okay, I need to fill this in first. Yeah, just get like a one layer overlay on top of that to try and even it out. And then we continue along darkening this. Getting it relatively close to the darkest it'll be, I think, for going on the left side. Because this is generally going to be like really dark. Because I want to have a lot of contrast as it goes further to the right. Like I want the adjustment of the gradient to be like relatively dramatic. Like the amount of variance in the gradient, I mean, and that's a little too small. And we have this be darker than what's next to it on the floor bit, because it would be more hidden from the actual light source than the floor next to it would be. Maybe not that dark, though, honestly. That's a bit too dark. Yeah, like it wouldn't get like super dark relative, but it would be darker than what is next to it just because of how the light would be reflecting. We're just gonna undo all of that. Yeah, something like that, I think. And this would get pretty dark, and then it'd lighten up over here. And same with this one. Lighten up as it got over. And then we'd probably have, like, more blatantly lighting, like, lit areas. Like, I wouldn't want to pull too much attention to the actual structure beneath. Beneath the Ouroboros. Generally, I'm trying to keep it as, like, focused on— that's the wrong direction. Focused— still not far enough. Focused on the Ouroboros as much as possible. Because I don't really want to, like, draw people's eye away from it. So I'd have, like, the most obvious, brightest lighting, and, like, contrast on the Ouroboros itself, instead of on the, background. Now, anything I talk about painting-wise, should probably be taken with a grain of salt, as I don't know how to paint. I've never actually painted digitally before. So this is relatively new territory for me, but I can still generally figure things out based off of stuff I already know artistically, with, like, shading. Which I have had experience with shading, just not painting. We have a little bit of lighter shading back here. Yeah. I think this gets the point across well enough. Probably put, like, a little bit of lighting on this. And then, of course, there's always the effect of backlighting. Or, like, bounce light. Where it's essentially the light will bounce off of, like, the ground and back up. So you will get highlights in places that are opposite from where the light source is. Now, it's often a lot softer, and it'll be like it'll be the opposite color of the light source. Like, you have— or no, it'll emulate the colors of what the bounce light is coming from, because usually you'll have your shadow color as either warm or cold, and then whatever you pick for that, you'll have your lighting color be the opposite. Like, if you pick, like, cold shadows, you'll have warm light, or warm shadows, you'll have cold light. But bounce light is generally based on the color of what it is bouncing off of, so you'll usually go for that if it's, like, a noticeable color. But I mean, honestly, you can do whatever the fuck you want, because the fun part of art is that it's not really— there are rules and ways to make it, like, more effective, but generally you are not chained down. You can do most of whatever you please, and it's not like many people can really stop you. As long as you're having fun and not like harming people with the art, I think everything is free game. You know? Like, screw the rules, have a bit of fun with it, do something wacky and wild and weird, and just enjoy life. This is looking good, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely going pretty well for like a basic underpainting. I will admit though, I don't intend to render this on stream. I might record it and post like a speed paint, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm not gonna render this on stream though. I'd combust doing line art painting would kill me even more. I'm mostly just stalling for time because I don't really know what to do with the rest of these. Fortunately for me though, I don't have a concept of time. This does look really cool though. This is a pretty sick ass start. But you know, fortunately for me, oh wow, that looks really different with and without the like thumbnail under it. Oh, that's wacky. That like brightened significantly. Oh, interesting. Anyways, it is 7:30. I think that's the best part about doing something that you love is well, actually it's the worst part. Time flies so fast, so you can't do it forever, but it's 7:30. It's almost dinner time. I believe that will likely be the end of this. I need to save this file. Big run hog. Save. So I appreciate you all for coming by. I will be streaming tomorrow, starting a little earlier than I did today. I stream Tuesday, Friday, Saturday at 5 p.m. PST. Tuesdays and Fridays we do art, and on Saturdays we play games. Currently Hollow Knight. We're trying to get that one done. Hopefully we'll be able to get there sometime soon, because there's some other games that I want to play on stream. I have social media if you want to see more of my work. I'm trying to work on actually posting a little more. I have an Instagram and a Tumblr, both under the name Air Conditioning Unit. And thank you for the stream. Thank you for coming by. I appreciate y'all's company. So I hope you have a wonderful morning, noon, or night, and enjoy the rest of your days. Bye-bye.